This Easter, skip the ordinary and whip up something golden with melty, creamy Velveeta cheese. From scalloped potatoes to rich mac and cheese, Velveeta turns every bite into a crowd-pleasing celebration, bringing the extra to the ordinary, transforming simple sides into lip-smacking, satisfying moments. So go on, make it melt, make it craveable, make it indulgent. Velveeta, respect the drip. Visit Velveeta.com/Easter for some recipe inspiration.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How Are the Podcast, and I hope you listened in to part one of our Football Room 101 the other day, which saw Martin go up against Jonny to see who could rid football of their pet hates more by persuading me to place them in Room 101 to banish them forever. So we started off in round one with neither first pick entering Room 101, which was a fantastic start. So luckily, I have the same two gentlemen aiming to do better in part two and the next two rounds. And first up is Martin Wonless. Hello, Martin.
Oh, Chris, yes, I'm warmed up after round one, so looking forward to round two.
Just warmed up. I mean, you were going pretty red in round one, mate. You were absolutely fuming just at the thought of that ball going near that touchline. But hope you're not too cross with us not putting it into Room 101.
I'm not, because I just have the inner satisfaction of already knowing in about 4 or 5 weeks' time, you're going to come to us and go, you know what, that's really crap how they don't spot the ball going out.
You know what? I'm going to be really pissed off with you because that's all I'm going to be looking out for now. Every time that bloody thing goes near going out for a throw-in or a goal kick or whatever it is, I'm going to be seeing how much it's out of play and I'm going to be analysing it to death.
The next time the ball is like close to going in or out for a throw-in, your eyes will be zoomed in and you won't be able to sleep at night because he'll be wishing that was in Room 101.
Well, if everyone for listening, let us know if Martin's also had an impact on you in terms of watching football. Because actually, I'm slightly worried that Martin's scarred my enjoyment of football forever. That I just can't watch football the same, and I'm always looking for that linesman's flag whenever the ball goes within 10 yards of that touchline. But anyway, let's see how he's going to score us in round two and round three, because we also have Jonny Hawley with us. Hello, Jonny.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Martin. Chris, have you got the spelks out your backside yet from sitting on the fence last time? Or
Hey, I think it takes more to tell you to sod off with your crap picks than it does to actually just chuck them into Room 101, to be honest, mate.
Yeah. You just go back to defending linesman. Why don't you?
I'm perfectly happy with the job they do. It's Martin who's pissed off with what they do every week, and you with your bloody expected assists and all that sort of stuff.
Hey, you dug up expected assists off your own back, mate. Don't blame me for that. I'm not getting listed down as a reason next time you see your therapist, all right?
But the proof was, as soon as I mentioned them, your eyes lit up. And the listeners couldn't see it, but I saw your reaction. As soon as I mentioned expected assists, your eyebrows raised and you were straight in there. You knew exactly what I was talking about. So for that fact that I actually spent time, reading it for myself in my own spare time, and then reading it out onto a podcast, meant that I just couldn't stick it in Room 101. So I would apologise, Jonny, but I'm not gonna. But we do need to get into the second round, and this time, Jonny, I'm going to let you go first. So what's your pick in round two?
So my second pick, first for round two, is the full sympathy environment that springs up around whoever the latest manager is that's nailed on to get sacked that week. This endless preaching around, well, we never want to see anybody lose the job, of course. That's the last thing we want. I would never want to be calling for somebody's job on live TV. I really would hate to be calling for somebody's job. I don't want to see somebody lose their job as I sit here and endlessly pontificate about all of the extended list of reasons why this guy should probably lose his job. But, we would all just be devastated to see a good man unemployed. And then the inevitable happens and the manager gets sacked. And then it's, oh, well, obviously, on a human level, you've just got to feel for him, don't you? You know, nobody likes to see anybody put in a situation like this. Like, is everyone fucking real? Are we all seriously living on the same planet here? Especially Premier League management is famously such a merry-go-round that there's a phrase, managerial merry-go-round, that specifically exists to describe the fact that all these managers, once you get your foot in the door, you get sacked, you get hired, you get sacked, you get hired, you get sacked, you get hired. Not to mention the fact that every time they get sacked, they get multiple millions of pounds paid out for the length of the rest of their contract, while all they've got to do, sit on the backside, wait for somebody else to get sacked, and get another bloody job. But oh no, obviously, guys, I mean, you know, it's just horrifying and depressing and saddening to see a multi-millionaire Premier League manager out of work. I don't know how anybody copes.
Okay, then. So what I'm going to put to you is what should be said, because I'm going to give you a quote from the legendary football manager that is Steve Bruce, the epitome of get sacked, get hired, as you were going on that cycle that you were talking about there. He said, when you get sacked, everybody thinks he's a football manager, he'll get lots of money, but you still get sacked, which for me is a slur on you. It degrades you. So what do you want people to say when people are either on the verge of getting sacked or they actually do get sacked?
Well, I think as a bare minimum, if we could stop this ridiculous pantomime that working class supporters of football clubs, who also get sacked, by the way, and don't get a nice cushy payout to tide them over for the next few months until they get hired again. I mean, most people probably don't have as many sackings and hirings in as quick succession as football managers do, but that's by the by. But if we could stop this pretense that any average football fan should feel one iota of sympathy for these guys who, okay, I'm sure it is really professionally damaging and bruises your ego and hurts you and makes you feel sad for a while. Good, it's elite level professional sport. It's meant to do that. It's an absolute privilege to even be within the same postcode of being mentioned in the same breath as a Premier League manager's job. There are millions upon millions of people around the world, in this country and beyond, who would trade limbs for the opportunity to get near a Premier League training ground for an hour. Never mind be a manager getting paid hundreds of thousands of pounds to potentially lead a team to winning a trophy, to winning a league title, to whatever it might be. And yet, obviously, there's such a toll on these people. Oh, well, shall I play them a sad song on the world's smallest violin, yeah?
Well, I'll put two kind of points of view to you. I'll do another quote, actually. This one's from Jose Mourinho, and this is on the topic of being sacked. He said, if the club decide to sack me because of bad results, that's part of the game. If it happens, I will be a millionaire and get another club a couple of months later. But, you listen to that and you think, yeah, okay, fair enough. But on the other hand, you're talking about professional people and you're talking about positions that they've worked very hard to get into. Let's say, and the first one might be a bad example, but let's say Sam Allardyce worked his way up from being Notts County manager, Blackpool manager, and he got the top job. He's England manager. And then he gets sacked. And if you look at Frank Lampard, okay, he's loaded with money. You can say, he's got enough money. So he does it for professional pride that he wants to be a manager. He gets the Chelsea job, which is probably his dream job in terms of club management. And they get sacked. Now, isn't there not an element of, well, they've worked really hard to get there, God, and then they got sacked from their dream job?
There's a very important distinction, though, between genuine sympathy when there is a legitimate reason or context around a sacking that lends to a story like that, like Big Sam at England, where there are a multitude of factors go into it. To some degree, you could argue he was stitched up. There's things that could make sense of that. I'm talking about Ruben Amorim at Man United. I'm talking about, relegation-threatened managers who are taking clubs down and haven't had a win in, 12 months or whatever it is. Ridiculous scenarios like that where everybody can see it's going wrong. Everybody knows that they're going to get sacked. It's coming. Everybody knows the writing's on the wall. We've seen it at Sunderland how many times? We all know what it looks like when a manager is on borrowed time and beyond. But then there's still this weird insistence of some sort of imagined decorum of, well, it's in such bad taste to talk about somebody losing their job. Don't you know that's a human? Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know that. We're talking about football. We're talking about the sport here. And if you can see that a manager is taking a team into the absolute dirt, of course it's fair enough to say, I think they should probably give that idiot the boot because he hasn't got a clue what he's doing. You see, there can be times where a manager's hard done by, there's unfair dismissals, there's whatever. There's reasons why it might be the case that you could look at it and genuinely feel for them on a human level. But by and large, when we're talking about the bread and butter of especially Premier League football, that's not the case.
Well, go on then, Martin, because I'll give you the chance to pull it apart. But if it's like round one, you'll probably back them up.
Well, mate, I struggle to have any form of sympathy at all with anyone who walks away with millions and millions of quid in the pocket. I have to say, I think there's very.
But that's not what he's putting into Room 101, is it?
I know, but it's part of it, isn't it? So, like, there's lots of examples of managers doing really bad jobs and deservedly getting sacked. There's one example of somebody drinking a pint of red wine and getting sacked, which is an interesting one in itself. And then you've got some that, like Sean Dyche's season, right, where he probably deserves a bit of sympathy because he's got lunatic owners who have kicked him out after actually doing a really good job statistically with a club. So I think there's various levels of it. But in the main, managers get sacked. Again, I'm going to repeat the line I used in the last episode, for not doing the job. And if you get sacked for not doing your job well enough, then that's on you. That's not on anybody else. And you don't deserve a great deal of sympathy. So I'm backing Jonny up. I know I'm supposed to try to put a little bit of a dent in Johnny's argument here, but absolutely, it's misplaced in terms of commentary.
So, and this, again, I'm going to put this one to Jonny, just very quickly, last point on it. What should people say?
They should just be honest. They shouldn't sugarcoat it with this total nonsense of veneer of sympathy that they don't really feel. If you actually feel sorry for somebody, then okay, fair enough. Give it the little preamble of, I really don't like to say blah, 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 whatever, fine. But if you're Jamie Carragher or Gary Neville on Monday Night Football and you're talking about Man United's manager or Liverpool's manager, I don't think they need you to baby them and pretend that you're going to be going home all broken up and upset if they get sacked for failing to qualify for the Champions League this season. All right, lads.
The other bit about this as well, which I think plays into it, right, is a lot of these opinions and this for sympathy is based on personal relationships.
Yes.
So you'll either get some sympathy if that's your mate getting sacked. And of course, as a friend, you don't want to see your friend getting sacked. That often overrides a professional opinion on whether somebody should lose the job or shouldn't lose the job. And I think that comes into play as well. So it's like, Gary Neville, if he's commenting on the Man U manager getting sacked, whether it's a mate of his who's got the job or not, will come into...
Well, when it was Solskjaer, he used to constantly say, didn't he? I love Ollie, I don't want him to get sacked. And this is two sides of the same coin. I totally agree. It's like, no, we don't care. Like, we want to hear what your football opinion is. Do you think the manager is good enough, or is he not? If he's not, just say he's not good enough and he should be sacked. End of the story.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty clear what you're trying to put into Room 101 then, Jonny. And actually, just one last quote I just wanted to say. It might not even be relevant, but I just wanted to say it. Brian Clough said, if a chairman sacks a manager he initially appointed, he should go as well. I just wanted to read that out because I like it. But talking of sympathy, Martin, we need your next pick for round 2.
Oh, my next pick is a controversial one. And I don't know when this came into football, right? Because it didn't used to happen. I don't remember it happening when I was a kid. I don't remember it happening in the early days of the stadium. I reckon this is a thing that's happened in the last 15 years. And I think it's a reflection on society in general as well as football and society, right? So the thing I want to put into Room 101 is a minute's applause for somebody who's died during games.
Hang on, whoa, whoa,
Just
whoa! They haven't
it's
died during the
just-
game. The applause is for during the game, is
Yeah, during it. So, rest in peace, condolences to friends and family. All
You just said about for sympathy, Martin.
all that sort of stuff. You don't get $1 million payoff, do you? £1 million payoff for that. And look, there's absolutely people, former player dies. I remember when Ian Porterfield passed away, we did something before the game, beautiful tribute. That is fantastic. That should be acknowledged, recognised, all that sort of stuff, right? The Heaven Branch did a brilliant tribute before the Man City game where people had photos of people who'd passed away that year, all that sort of stuff. That is how you do it, right? Having it's a struggle to go a weekend watching a number of football games without seeing at some random moment in the game a minute's applause breaking out. Now you've got a situation here. A team might be on the attack, might be defending, a point in the game, applause break out. The players going, "What the hell's going on? What's happening here? Who's this for?" There's distraction potentially. If I die, when I die, if I have a minute's applause, which I won't have, of course, but what would happen? Sunderland would concede a goal because the players would be distracted. And that's the last thing I would bloody want. So you've got this whole thing where you're getting people to join in and get distracted from the thing they're watching by this forced applause, right? And then you've got the other aspect to it, right? So there's one thing with Ian Porterfield passing away back in 2008 or whenever it was, him getting the tribute. And again, that was beautifully done before the game. You've got this phenomenon now where people are so used to minute's applause. You've got somebody on Facebook going, "Oh, my uncle Kev's died. Can we do a minute's applause on 74 minutes? But actually, he normally leaves on 70, so can we do it on 70 instead?" It's like, absolutely not. Like, where does it stop? You're going to have, in 10 years' time, you'll have a minute's applause on 7 minutes for a left back who passed away a few years ago. You're going to have another minute's applause on 41 for something else, another one on 80. You're going to end up with 90 minutes of bloody applause for various different causes and people who've passed away and all that sort of stuff. And the kicker, they never applaud on the correct minute.
yeah.
Right? So, say you want to applaud on 55 minutes. Somebody's passed away, a 55-year-old, right? Terribly sad, all that sort of stuff, right? If former player, acknowledge him before the game. If not, wait until the New Year game when you'll get acknowledged. But 55, we'll applaud in the 55th minute because we're 55. Start applauding on 54:01. That's the 55th minute. So you can't even get it right anyway. So it's a whole shambles. And again, I don't know when it started, but it needs to get in the bin.
Yeah. And I don't really know where to go with this one, but I'll try. It's not, for me, it's not the impact on the game that comes into it. It's where, again, I think you've said it when you said, where do we draw the line? Because why does one person deserve it and another doesn't? Do they have to be season ticket holders for so many years? Do you collect loyalty points and then get an applause if you pass away? I mean, what constitutes somebody who deserves it? Now, when these applauses are being done, you don't know these people, and you go, okay, it's very sad, and you go through the thing. But again, you said, where do you cross the line? Because anybody could apply to the club, or anybody could put it out there on social and say, can everybody do this?
Well, that's exactly right. And then you're getting then into the conversation we had last time with Johnny's XA, right? Do you actually accumulate stats to work out whether you deserve a minute or not? Like, it's, it's
51 seconds.
So we're going to have XMA now, expected minutes applause. We're going to be tracking for everybody.
Oh, he's had a season ticket for 27 years. He gets 10 seconds. Like, it's it's just not like. And again, I'm not trying to minimize the impact that somebody passing away has, all that sort of stuff. I'm saying do it in the right way and do it. If it's a former player or something like that, do it before the game. Do it once, acknowledge it, and you've got life moves on. You've got to move on after that, right? So you've got this whole situation where now you're turning this public spectacle. People want to watch the football, right? And you've got this public spectacle of grief, and you can trace it back to you can go back to Princess Diana passing away, where you had this public outpouring of grief, and you just look at it and go, "Come on, man." And it's the same sort of thing. People want everyone else involved. If somebody passed away, very sorry for the impact it has on your family and all that sort of stuff. I don't feel as if I should be forced into that grief, especially when I just want to go and watch a match. And that, plus the fact that nobody gets it on the right minute anyway, is why it should go into room 101.
Go on then, Johnny. Have your input on it.
I just want to say that tiny sliver in the middle of the Venn diagram between Princess Diana obsessives and How Are the Podcast listeners is currently sat fuming at you, Martin. So I hope you realise what you've just unleashed on us.
Yeah, I always remember that funeral where people looked really sad while they were tucking into their hot dogs and stuff in central London for the Princess.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I can't say anything else against it, because unfortunately I also must do a Martin and say I completely agree. I think he's absolutely spot on. It's all performative nonsense.
Well, based on that, I think it's probably about time we found out in round 2 what goes into room 101. And we'll start with you, Johnny, with the old sympathy for managers. And unfortunately, I'm not going to put that into room 101, purely because not all managers earn millions. And some get that job where it might be the stepping stone. And I think about Phil Parkinson with Sunderland. That was the job that he thought, how the hell have I got this job? And I'm in this position. And he goes and gets sacked, and he thinks, oh, where am I going to go from here? But there's managers who graft away in the lower leagues, and people go, oh yeah, it's sad that they lost their job and all that sort of stuff.
So you've gone from defending officials to defending Phil Parkinson now. I must just say this. It's an interesting route you've taken, Chris. He's gone deep into character.
And also the Disney superstar Phil Parkinson. It's not worked out too badly for him, has it?
Oh yeah, no, but that still, even though he's Wrexham manager, he's still never going to get a bigger job than managing Sunderland. But you'll see the links I'll go to, Johnny, to not put any of your picks into room 101 at the minute. But I am going to put tributes for people passing away, and that's a bizarre statement that I've just made into room 101 at football games, or moments of applause or whatever during the game, because unfortunately, look, it is the nature of life that happens. And again, as we said, where do we draw the line for someone who is worthy and someone who isn't? Because that in itself, to be fair, is a pretty brutal thing to judge, as we said. And as Brian Clough said, don't send me flowers when I'm dead. If you like me, send them while I'm alive. So a lesson to tell those people how great they are while you can. But it's time for us to take a quick break before round 3. So we'll be back very soon.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
And welcome back to How Are the Podcast. And it's all on round 3. Because Martin snuck one in there in the back door, because I had no other choice. I don't think.
He's done what? Okay, hell, age is podcast.
That's some face from 16,000 kilometres away, isn't it?
What's that thing about me, Uncle Billy?
Anyway, round 3. Johnny, what's your last pick?
So my last pick, not quite on the same level of seriousness as dead people or managerial sackings. I'm going with, and so I'll preface by saying this is not an original thought. I'm not by no means the first person who noticed this, but once you notice it, you will never stop. And it is defenders who
So
just
ball going out of play again, is it?
it's no, don't worry. No touchlines were harmed in the making of this submission. It's when defenders do that thing, and everybody will be able to picture it in their minds as soon as I say it, where they're shielding the ball, an attacker comes anywhere within about a metre of them, and they just drop and they hit the deck. I cannot stand that watching that happen. It's absolutely infuriating because every single time, every referee, every linesman, every commentator, almost every spectator in the ground, every single person knows exactly what's just happened, that the defender has completely bought it. There's no reason whatsoever why they should drop to the floor. And yet we all know that they're going to get the free kick every single time. To slow the game down, to waste time, most times more often than not near the end of a game trying to run the clock down. And yeah, more ball out of play, less action, more play acting. No fun for me.
I know exactly the scenario you're talking about, Johnny. I know exactly the one, and I've got it in my head. But what's your reaction leading up to it? Because as you said, you know it's coming before the referee blows his whistle, before there's even any contact. You know what's going to happen in the next 10 seconds of play. But what's running through your mind? Because through my mind, I'm going, don't foul him, don't foul him, don't foul him.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and I get that same monologue. I think we all do, don't you? Where you almost try and by sheer force of will to like grab control of the play. You're watching like you're playing FIFA and just steer him away. Like, no, don't go near him. You know it's going to be a foul. So in the sense that you know that it's going to happen, you can put some blame on the challenging player. But my point is that fundamentally beneath this, the challenging player, in some cases, the challenge is no more than standing next to the defender and not making any other move to interfere with them. And that is treated by the referees and by the general spectating public in most cases, by the tacit acceptance of what they're watching. That is treated the same as a genuine foul, a push in the back, a knee nobbled in the back of the thigh, or, a little casual little flick of the ankle or something. That is all under the same umbrella in this interaction of doing nothing, because it's all penalised, which is insanity.
So very quickly, are you putting into room 101 the fact that defenders do it, the fact that referees give it, or just the whole scenario?
The defenders only do it because referees give it. So you can't have one without the other.
Because if referees going out to play, Johnny.
It's too close to the touchline for Martin's leg. It's coming out in hives.
Yeah, to be fair, this does normally happen in the corners as well, so I suppose the touchlines are in play. But yeah, it's like, mostly I blame the defenders, because if the defenders...
Blame the
boogie. That's probably his chuckle there. Yeah, no, I blame the defenders primarily, right? Because they're the ones who are going down. But in a purely utilitarian, what's the best thing for my football team point of view, you almost can't blame the defender, because a bit like the perennial conversation about the fact that people need to go to ground in the box usually to get given a penalty or whatever, the only reason that they're able to behave the way they are is because of the environment that the referees and officials create. So it's as much the officiating as it is the culprits, because one can't exist without the other. If the culprits aren't going down and continuing the charade, the referees don't keep giving the decisions. But if the referees stop giving them, the charade stops, because there's nothing to gain from it anymore. So you can't separate them like that.
Okay, that's interesting. And we all know that the scenario that you're talking about, but Martin, get your input on it, because I would say that actually, if you look across the pitch, there's probably a few scenarios that are similar this way, where you always see them coming and you know what's coming next, but you can't stop it, and the referee always blows for it.
There are, I think, in that situation that Johnny's described, though, you could also chuck in the stupidity of attackers as well, because they know what's going to happen and they continually get up tight to them, getting close. They're actually in a really bloody difficult position.
Yes.
They've often got facing
the wrong goal. Yeah.
They've got to either genuinely concede a corner or a throw in if the referee can spot the ball's gone over the line. So why attackers get so bloody tight to them to give them the opportunity to go down is actually a bigger frustration for me than defenders going down and referees giving it, because you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. So don't make it easy. And 9 times out of 10, you'll see an attacker get so touch tight to the defender, he gives them the touch to enable them to go down. And it's so frustrating. But those areas in the pitch are the easiest places to win free kicks if you're the defending side. If you're the attacking side,
They're almost the hardest places.
They are. And you then come into a whole conversation about the different circumstances referees will either give or not give a free kick for exactly the same amount of contact.
Oh, we could do a 6-part series just on that, Martin.
Which again is a whole other thing we could go into room 1-on-1, couldn't we? So, again, it's not necessarily a simple thing to pull apart, is it? But yeah, look, it's on many levels, it's a frustration.
Yeah, well, we know the exact scenario that Johnny's talking about, trying to get into room 101 in round 3. So that means, Martin, we need to know what goes up against it.
Injured players.
Generally,
no punches this time, is he?
Yep. Specific injured players.
Well, wearing black and white. No, look. It's not necessarily injured players. Obviously, players get injuries, and that comes as par for the course. It's the way that football, as a sport, treats people getting slightly hurt. Right? So, context. I watch quite a lot of rugby league, right? And people get battered from pillar to post. The physical contact is off the scale compared to football. People just get up, dust themselves down, get on with it. In football, a lot of players will get a little knock, go down, trying to win free kicks, trying to get the game stopped, all that sort of stuff. I would say the vast amount of, in inverted commas, injuries that happen are to stop the game, waste a bit of time. And they've tried to stop it with, players have to go off for a minute, if all that sort of stuff, if there's not a booking. But it still happens, especially at different stages of the game. We've seen a number of incidents recently, like we've done it, and we've been on the other end of it in the last month, haven't we? With goalkeepers going down, feigning an injury. Let's call it out. Absolutely feigning an injury. So the players can come over to the sideline to have a tactical chat with the manager. And we do not, football as a sport does not manage injuries on the pitch in the correct way. So there's solutions to it potentially. You could let physios, one physio. Back in the day, Steve Smelt came on with a little sponge, gave you a wipe, and then you find to carry on. Now you've got a bloody medical team coming on with surgeons and all sorts to diagnose a little dead leg. And, you've got such a number of people coming onto the field. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But you could let one person come on to treat somebody while the game is going on. And that would stop players going down. If they knew the game wasn't going to get stopped, it would stop the number of players going down and stopping the game, getting an injury. If a player has to stop the game for an injury, if it's so bad they need the game stopped, you're subbed and you miss the next match, right? Make it so impactful that players do not feel there's an incentive to go down and get treatment. If you can't walk off the field and get a bit of treatment, then you should be taken off and subbed because you can't continue. If you cannot get to the touchline in that moment to get some treatment, you physically shouldn't be able to complete the game. So you're subbed. So look, there's so many aspects to this, but what I want to put in room 101 is how, as a sport, we manage injuries during the game, because the game is so stop-start, players go down, treatment, all that sort of stuff. If a goalkeeper goes down, right? Here's my solution to this while we're on the topic, while I've taken us on the topic. If a goalkeeper goes down to enable the team talk, right? If more than one player goes over to the manager, the opposition gets the option to 10 minutes at a time at the end of the game, and they can decide whether to use it or not, right? There's so many ways you could sort this out. But at the minute, you've got, in some games you don't have as many, granted, But a lot of games, you'll get players going down, the referee will stop it. Oh, yeah, I don't need the physio, I'm all right. After everything's calmed down, they've taken the sting out of the game. On your bike, get off the pitch if you want treatment, or get up.
Bloody hell, I tell you what, he puts up a good argument, Johnny. I don't know what your take is on this.
The only thing is, because I agree with the spirit and I totally agree with the sentiment that it is just infuriating, isn't it? When you watch people gun down and you're like, you just obviously find, like, everybody knows you're all right. Get up, get on with it. But with injury, the risk of getting it wrong and being a bit too, oh, let's make sure the game carries on. It only needs to blow up in our faces once.
But let the physio
And
on the
then-
pitch. Let the physio on the pitch straight away. Let him treat somebody while the game's going on.
But let's say somebody goes down and the physio comes on, and it's only when the physio comes on they realise, oh, shit, this is actually serious here. He's got a broken bone in his leg, and if he gets up and puts his weight on it, he's gonna snap it. We need the stretcher on. While the game's carried on, and a centre half's absolutely leathered a clearance that's gone 100 yards in the air. It's dropping down towards these lads. They can't move him out the way, and a ball lands on his leg and does him serious injury. That might sound totally ridiculous, and even saying it out loud, I feel a bit silly, but it just takes one freak occurrence like that, and then all of a sudden, it's, wow, football, the barbarians game that don't even look after injured players. We need sweeping reforms to protect player welfare, and then
But
the
there's a
can
few
of
bits of that, right?
worms.
So you've got enough data, since Johnny loves data, as we've discovered. We've got enough data.
XI.
We've got, yeah. XI and XT for working out how much treatment they'll need. But you got enough data from other sports in terms of how often that scenario would potentially happen. Now, football's a different game, obviously, but you've got enough data to kind of look at and go, that's worth trying out, right? Also, players and referees can generally tell if there's a serious injury. So if there's a broken bone, so, I remember the Niall Huggins injury against Coventry, right? You heard that in the ground.
God, yeah,
You
that was
literally
bad,
heard
that
that. And everyone in the ground knew that's, he's done there, right? So you generally know when there's a really serious.
I'll throw
injury.
Colin Haley in there as well.
Oh, 100%. So, and we can all think of them, right? So you know when you generally know when there's a really serious injury that the game needs to stop for. That's such a 1 in 1,000, 1 in 5,000 occurrence in terms of the amount of time players go down. So by continuing the game and saying, look, the game's up, you can go down, the game's not going to stop. You reduce the number of players going down to start with. You then get to a point where players who genuinely need treatment will go down because they know there's no advantage. They're putting the team at a disadvantage if they continue to stay down. You look at Habib Diarra a couple of weeks ago, right? Goes out in the box trying to get the game stopped. If he knew there was no chance of getting that game stopped, then he gets back up straight away.
Yeah.
So there's a whole thing about the impact on the game, the consequential impact of players then going down with injuries because you're not allowing them the opportunity to stop the game. And at the minute now, you've got teams going, oh, shall we kick the ball out? Shall we not kick the ball out? That's another thing in Room 101, by the way. Teams kicking the ball about for other teams who are injured, but we'll come on to that in another episode. But you've got this whole scenario that creates an uncertainty it creates within the game. Whereas if you could just let the physio run on, or the player knows he's got to go off the pitch to get treatment, and if the physio comes on, he's got to still go off for a couple of minutes or whatever, you've got to disincentivize people going down injured when they're not injured to enable the game to actually get better in terms of how we manage injuries.
Yeah. Well, look, we'll push for time, so we need to get into which one, if any, goes into Room 101 from round 3. And Martin is, of course, one up from the previous 2 rounds. And to go through these 2, I will start with Martin's because, like I said, you don't have to put up a good argument with that one. And as much as I'd love to go down the Johnny route of bringing up health and safety and pulling out that old chestnut and saying that.
Whoa, hang on, whoa. You paid me to be such a square this episode.
Whoa.
We've
Hang
got
on.
Johnny's XA, and now we've got Johnny's health and safety. I don't like the nicknames that are coming out of this episode.
So, Johnny, the scenario you gave was the ball going up in the air and landing on someone's knee. And then the paperwork would be horrendous, wouldn't it? if that happened.
It was a broken knee. The ball was going to land on. All right, there was
Well,
some action
it was
involved.
it was after the ball landed on it, but I'm not sure beforehand. He was feigning it before the ball landed on it, and then he was really screwed. But yeah, I'm really tempted to put this one in, but I'm not. And one thing you went back to one thing that swings it. You went back to the old Steve Smelt with his sponge, and I'm going to go back to that. And you're saying your problem is with the way that the game manages it, and I agree with that. But my issue is that the game has to manage it, and I'm not sure it used to. And I'm sure that's an indictment on society rather than the management of the game. I think people go down now, whereas back in the day, I think it was seen as a slight if you went down injured, and players avoided doing that.
So you're agreeing with us? What you've just said is just completely my argument. The game does not manage it. The game does not manage injuries in the correct way.
I think the game shouldn't need to. That's why it's not going into room one.
But the game, like we've talked about a few things, the game enables it, right? So it's not a matter of actually needing to. The game is enabling people to go down injured because they know if they're rolling around, the game will stop. Whether it's stopped in play or whether it's stopped when the ball goes out of play, if the referee can tell whether the ball's gone over the touchline or not, the game will stop. The physio will be allowed on, or more often than not, the player goes, I'm all right now. I don't need the physio, mate. If you don't need the physio, get up. Right?
Well,
and
again,
that is, again, Chris, you're agreeing with us, really. So,
no, I agree. I agree the whole injuries thing. I hate the injuries things, but it's the fact that it has to be managed because players should just know that that's wrong, but they don't.
But
so you're saying it's the way that it's managed, which is correct, but I don't think it should be managed. I think back in the day, they managed themselves.
Well, that point, right, is exactly the same as Johnny's thing here. So if you're putting this in for that reason, you can't put Johnny's in, right? Because it's the way the game is managing it, right? The game enables both scenarios that me and Johnny presented. And what we're saying is that the game needs to prevent those situations occurring. The game needs to stop opening up the opportunity for defenders to go down really softly or for players to take the piss pretending they're injured.
Well, I've made my decision on yours, Martin, and then I'll talk about Johnny's now. Because with Johnny, with yours, with defenders going down and winners and winning free kicks, especially near the touchline. Sorry to bring it up, Martin, but I do apologise, Johnny, because that's not going into room 101 either. Because, and I'll explain, because back in the day, Johnny, as we've mentioned before, I was a defender, and I wasn't particularly fit. And this was my ticket out of trouble back in the day. And the amount of fun I had winding up strikers who didn't touch us at all, but then they gave away a free kick to the frustration of their teammates, would all be lost if this went into the abyss. So for me, it's an attacking player being incredibly thick, as Martin said, rather than the blame being on the defender or the scenario. I think strikers don't have to make contact and they can do it in a different way to completely avoid this scenario.
So I totally accept your decision, Chris. All I'd like to offer in rebuttal, and I'm speaking directly to the audience now, is you'd need to just understand, guys, that he's rejected all three of my suggestions, but what he has done is defend linesman Phil Parkinson and defenders flopping to the ground under no pressure. This is the man that's rejecting my suggestions, okay? So just bear that in mind when you evaluate me.
There you go.
Back
Anyway,
to you, Chris.
After all that, neither is going into room 101. And I can't quite believe I'm saying this, but with your tributes to people who have sadly passed away, Martin, gone into room 101, you are the winner of this episode of room 101, Martin. So well done. You must be immensely proud winning this episode based on that.
I am tremendously proud because it is one of the things that has featured heavily on my list for, as I say, a few years as I've been compiling it. And what's emerged, as Johnny said, it's really interesting because you've defended linesmen. And by virtue of the fact you haven't put mine or Johnny's suggestions into this room 101 in this episode, you're also technically putting the blame on the referees because saying the referees need to manage it better. The game needs to manage. you defended linesmen, but you've put referees into the firing line, right? So what we know now, what we can ascertain is if either me or Johnny, whoever else does the next episode of Room 101, we just need to put referees in because they're not doing the job.
Actually, I said they were doing their job because they're giving the defenders that attackers are being really thick and doing the wrong thing, and referees are giving the decision based on.
It's only the wrong thing because of the referees giving the fouls when they're not fouls, Chris.
You said the game's got to manage it better. So, whether it's the lawmakers or the referees themselves.
Yes, well, I'm a
the
rebel.
FA. That's what we need to put in.
Well, for next time, add it to your list, Martin.
Right. Yeah. Now we've psychoanalyzed you, Chris. That's it. You're going to be putting in our hands in the next Room 101s. That's it. Everything's going in.
The next episode, Johnny can also get FA into Room 101.
I mean, they're analysing this more than XA, aren't they, really, to be fair? I mean, it's like the Opta of analysing Room 101. But anyway, apologies, Johnny. It wasn't your day, mate.
No, it wasn't. But listen, in the immortal words of Steve Bruce, we'll dust ourselves down and we'll go again next week.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was an actual quote, but there you go. But just like to say, thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much, Johnny. The winners are, of course, the listeners who get to listen to all of this good fun. So thank you very much, gentlemen. Really appreciate your time. And thanks again, everyone, for listening. Let us know whether you agree or disagree with the lads, or whether you think my decisions were right or complete and utter bollocks. But we're hoping to have another edition of Room 101 very soon, so stay tuned for that on our daily releases of How We're the Podcast. But from us, it's bye for now.